On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Julie London, one of the most captivating voices of mid-20th century America, passed away on October 18, 2000, at the age of 74 in Encino, California. Her death came after years of declining health due to complications from a stroke she had suffered in 1995. It marked the end of an era defined by smoky jazz clubs, post-war sensuality, and the golden age of Hollywood, where London's understated allure and intimate vocal style made her both an icon and a mystery. London's death from natural causes reflected not only the inevitable passage of time, but also the quiet dignity with which she had lived much of her later life. Unlike many stars of her generation who sought constant reinvention, London retreated gracefully from the spotlight after her acting and music careers waned. This quiet exit paralleled the fading of the jazz nightclub culture that had once defined her fame, a reminder of the transience of artistic glory in a world forever chasing the new. Rising to prominence in the 1950s, Julie London was best known for her signature song, Cry Me a River, released in 1955. The song became an anthem of heartbreak and independence, emblematic of the emotional restraint and sensual melancholy that characterized post-war American femininity. Her music offered a kind of vulnerability that contrasted sharply with the exuberant optimism of her era, making her voice a refuge for those disillusioned by the glittering promises of Hollywood. In addition to her music, London's acting career spanned several memorable performances, including her role in the popular television series Emergency during the 1970s. Her on-screen presence, cool, confident, and understated, reflected a cultural shift toward modern womanhood. Self-reliant, emotionally complex, yet deeply human. The immediate aftermath of her death saw a resurgence of interest in her recordings, particularly among younger generations discovering the authenticity and emotional honesty of her style. Critics and fans alike noted how her minimalistic approach, soft phrasing, deliberate pacing, and raw emotion had influenced later artists from Norah Jones to Lana Del Rey. Julie London's passing underscores humanity's ongoing fascination with timeless beauty and the fragility of fame. Through her music, she captured the ache of longing and the quiet strength of self-possession, emotions that transcend generations. We continue to immortalize her not through spectacle, but through sound. The intimate whisper of her voice preserved in vinyl grooves and digital archives alike. In remembering Julie London, we confront our own yearning for connection, grace, and the fleeting immortality that only art can grant. Lettieri, the rugged-faced actor best remembered for portraying tough, morally ambiguous characters in 1970s Hollywood classics, died suddenly of a heart attack on October 18, 1975, at just 47 years old. His passing was both abrupt and tragic, cutting short a career that had begun to redefine the image of the cinematic villain in a decade obsessed with realism, grit, and moral complexity. Lettieri's death from natural causes stood in stark contrast to the violent, often brutal roles he brought to life on screen. As Sollozzo, the cunning drug trafficker in The Godfather, 1972, he embodied the new face of organized crime, intelligent, pragmatic, and frighteningly human. His nuanced portrayal of evil reflected the moral uncertainty of the post-Vietnam, post-Watergate era, when audiences no longer believed in clear distinctions between heroes and villains. That he died so suddenly at the peak of his creative power mirrored the fleeting, unpredictable nature of fame, during Hollywood's turbulent New Wave period. Before his breakthrough in The Godfather, Lettieri had spent years struggling to find substantial roles, despite being fluent in multiple languages and having deep insight into real-life underworld figures. When success finally came, he became a symbol of the gritty authenticity that characterized American cinema in the early 1970s. His untimely death deprived audiences of an actor who could merge the menace of the old gangster archetype with the psychological realism that defined the era's storytelling. The immediate impact of his passing was felt most acutely in the film industry, where casting directors lamented the loss of a performer capable of lending depth to characters who might otherwise have been one-dimensional. Posthumously, his reputation grew as his performances in The Getaway and Mr. Majestyk were reevaluated as part of a broader movement that blurred the boundaries between morality and survival. In death, Lettieri became part of a lineage of actors whose personal mystery and early departure intensified their cultural legacy. His career reminds us how cinema mirrors the anxieties of its time, his roles reflecting America's growing skepticism toward power, law, and justice. Ultimately, Al Lettieri's passing underscores humanity's fascination with impermanence and transformation. We immortalize figures like him not only through film, but through the emotions they awaken: fear, empathy, and respect for authenticity. His performances remain preserved in celluloid, capturing the pulse of a restless age and reminding us that even brief lives can leave enduring shadows across the screen of history. Gwen Verdon, one of Broadway's most luminous stars, passed away peacefully in her sleep on October 18, 2000, at the age of 75. Her death was attributed to natural causes, marking a quiet and dignified end for a woman whose life had been defined by movement, rhythm, and the electricity of performance. Known as the quintessential Broadway dancer and muse to choreographer Bob Fosse, Verdon's passing closed the curtain on an era of musical theater that celebrated artistic risk, sensuality, and the sheer physical poetry of dance. Verdon's death reflected not only the inevitability of mortality, but also the transition of American theater from the golden age of mid-century musicals to a more modern, commercialized entertainment world. Her career had spanned decades of cultural change, from post-war optimism to the feminist awakenings of the 1960s and beyond, and her legacy was tied to the artistic rebellion of her time. In an industry that often prized youth and glamour, Verdon represented endurance. Even in later years, she continued mentoring dancers and preserving Fosse's choreography, ensuring that the kinetic storytelling she helped define would outlive her. The immediate response to her passing was one of reverence and nostalgia. Broadway theaters dimmed their lights in tribute, and tributes poured in from generations of performers who credited her with shaping the modern language of dance in theater. She was more than a performer. She was a living archive of Fosse's artistic vision, blending precision with raw emotion. Her partnership with Fosse, both professional and romantic, epitomized the artistic complexity of mid-century American entertainment, where art and identity intertwined in dazzling yet demanding ways. Verdon's death also underscored the fragility of legacy in a fast-changing cultural landscape. Yet, paradoxically, it amplified her legend. The renewed interest in her life and work, particularly following portrayals in documentaries and dramatizations like Fosse/Verdon, introduced her to younger audiences. Through these portrayals, Verdon became not just a historical figure, but a symbol of perseverance in art, a reminder that creative brilliance often comes at personal cost. In a broader sense, Gwen Verdon's passing invites reflection on how art immortalizes the human spirit. While life is transient, performance captured on film, remembered through choreography, or revived on stage, defies time. Verdon's dance, her precision and her passion endure as expressions of humanity's refusal to fade quietly. Her story reminds us that memory, like movement, can keep us forever in motion, even after the music stops. Colin Powell, one of the most influential military and political figures in modern American history, passed away on October 18, 2021, at the age of 84 due to complications from COVID-19. His death, though attributed to natural causes, carried symbolic weight, occurring amid a global pandemic that tested the very values Powell had spent his life upholding: leadership, discipline, and integrity in times of crisis. Powell was fully vaccinated, but also battling multiple myeloma, a form of blood cancer that compromised his immune system, illustrating the vulnerability of even the strongest public figures to the universal frailty of the human condition. His passing reflected not only the mortality of a historic statesman, but also the deep societal divisions of his era. Powell had embodied the post-World War II American ideal of meritocracy, a man who rose from modest beginnings in the Bronx to become the first Black U.S. Secretary of State and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. His death prompted national reflection on themes of race, service, and the moral complexities of power. In a time when public trust in institutions had eroded, Powell's reputation for steadiness and pragmatism served as a contrast to the increasingly polarized political climate he left behind. The immediate response to his death was a rare moment of bipartisan respect. Tributes poured in from leaders across the political spectrum, emphasizing his integrity and humility. Yet, his legacy was not without controversy. Many recalled his pivotal role in presenting the U.S. case for the Iraq War in 2003, a decision he later called a blot on his record. This moral reckoning became part of how his death was interpreted, a reminder that even great leaders are shaped by the imperfections of their time, and that legacy is often a balance between achievement and accountability. Powell's death amplified his legend by reigniting discussions about leadership defined by honor rather than ideology. He became a symbol of disciplined service and ethical reflection, a man who bridged military rigor with human empathy. Through documentaries, biographies, and military scholarship, his life continues to be studied as a blueprint for principled command. In the end, Colin Powell's passing speaks to humanity's enduring desire to find purpose within power and dignity within duty. His journey from soldier to statesman reminds us that mortality humbles all, yet memory, preserved through history and storytelling, can immortalize those who lead with conviction. His life and death reaffirm the idea that the true measure of leadership lies not in perfection, but in courage, integrity, and the grace to face one's own fallibility. John-Erik Hexum's death on October 18, 1984, remains one of Hollywood's most haunting tragedies, a chilling example of how recklessness and illusion can intertwine in the world of entertainment. At just 26 years old, Hexum, a rising television star known for his role in Voyagers and the CBS series Cover Up, died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound on set. The death was ruled accidental. During a filming delay, Hexum, frustrated by the wait, jokingly placed a prop gun loaded with blank cartridges to his head and pulled the trigger. The blast's force fractured his skull, sending bone fragments into his brain. Though blanks lack bullets, the pressure they generate is deadly at close range. Hexum's untimely death reflected the era's cavalier attitudes toward on-set safety and the blurred line between fiction and reality in 1980s Hollywood. At a time when practical effects were favored over digital simulation, the industry often prioritized visual spectacle over caution. His death became a painful wake-up call, prompting studios to revisit firearm safety protocols, much as Brandon Lee's fatal accident on the set of The Crow would do nearly a decade later. The tragedy revealed how the entertainment world's pursuit of realism could, paradoxically, lead to the most unreal and unnecessary losses of life. The immediate reaction to Hexum's death was one of disbelief and sorrow. Fans mourned a performer whose charisma and potential had barely begun to unfold. Industry insiders expressed frustration over how easily a preventable accident had claimed another young life. His organs were donated, giving life to several others. A poignant final act that transformed senseless loss into enduring generosity. In death, John-Erik Hexum became a symbol of youthful promise cut short, forever frozen in time as a figure of beauty, talent, and fatal irony. His story has since entered Hollywood legend, serving as both cautionary tale and tribute. It underscores how fame, often associated with invincibility, can mask profound vulnerability. Ultimately, Hexum's passing speaks to humanity's complicated dance with mortality, the desire to control fate, even in moments meant to entertain. His legacy endures through retrospectives, fan memorials, and the persistent reminder that, even in illusion, life's fragility is never far away. Through remembrance, we transform tragedy into testimony, ensuring that the lessons born of loss continue to safeguard future generations of dreamers. Dwight Twilly, a foundational figure in the American power pop movement, passed away on October 18, 2023, at the age of 72, following complications from a stroke he suffered while driving in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The stroke caused a crash into a tree, and despite medical intervention, Twilly succumbed to his injuries 4 days later. His sudden and tragic death serves as a stark reminder of life's fragility, even for those whose work often conveyed energy, optimism, and resilience through music. Twilly's passing reflects both the challenges and values of his era. Emerging in the 1970s with his band alongside Phil Seymour, Twilly became known for hits like I'm on Fire and Girls, songs that encapsulated the jangly, melodic charm of American power pop while navigating the post-beat era's fascination with youth, freedom, and artistic experimentation. Despite his talent, Twilly faced significant industry challenges, including record label disputes and shifting musical trends, which mirrored broader struggles faced by artists in a period where commercial pressures often clashed with creative integrity. His persistence in producing authentic, melodic music highlighted an era when artistry and passion were sometimes at odds with the evolving commercial landscape. The immediate aftermath of Twilly's death was marked by an outpouring of admiration from fans, musicians, and critics who celebrated his enduring influence on the power pop genre. Though he never achieved the mainstream fame of some contemporaries, his legacy was strengthened in death. His music was revisited by younger generations, discovering the vibrancy and craftsmanship of his songwriting. This posthumous recognition emphasizes how artistic impact can grow over time, independent of commercial success, and how mortality often reframes appreciation for creative contributions. Dwight Twilly's life and death remind us of humanity's complex relationship with mortality, memory, and cultural preservation. While life is fleeting, art provides a measure of immortality. Through his recordings, performances, and the influence he imparted to future musicians, Twilly's spirit endures, illustrating how creative expression allows individuals to transcend their temporal existence. In commemorating him through music retrospectives, documentaries, and renewed fan engagement, society immortalizes not just the artist, but the emotional resonance of his work. an enduring testament to the power of melody, dedication, and artistic authenticity. Bess Truman, the wife of the 33rd President of the United States, Harry S. Truman, passed away on October 18, 1982, at the age of 97. She died of natural causes, having lived a remarkably long life that spanned nearly an entire century of American history. Her death marked the end of a life defined by quiet strength, discretion, and steadfast support for one of the most consequential presidencies of the 20th century. Unlike many first ladies who embraced public attention, Bess Truman valued privacy and approached her role with a reserved dignity that reflected the social expectations and personal values of her era. Her passing reflected both the longevity and endurance of a generation shaped by 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and the rapid transformations of post-war America. Bess's life mirrored the shifting expectations of women in the public sphere. She was a behind-the-scenes influence who maintained her independence and intellect, often serving as a trusted confidant to her husband during crises such as the end of World War II, the beginning of the Cold War, and the decision to use the atomic bomb. Her death underscored the quiet, often overlooked labor of those who shape history indirectly, revealing the human dimension of governance in a period of global uncertainty. The immediate consequences of her passing were largely symbolic rather than political. Tributes emphasized her steadfast character and the role she played in supporting her husband through his presidency, highlighting the enduring respect for her discretion and loyalty. Public reflection on her life reinforced the perception of the Truman era as one of principled leadership and personal integrity. Bess Truman's legacy is immortalized through historical accounts, biographies, and the archives of the Truman Presidential Library, which preserve her letters, photographs, and personal effects. These materials provide insight into her intellect, values, and influence, demonstrating how memory and documentation can extend the presence of those who preferred a private life. In commemorating Bess Truman, society recognizes the enduring impact of quiet, principled lives and the ways in which ordinary individuals, through dedication and moral support, help shape the course of history. Her passing reminds us that human mortality is universal, yet memory and recorded history offer a measure of permanence that allows future generations to learn from and honor those who came before. Thomas Edison, one of history's most prolific inventors, passed away on October 18, 1931, at the age of 84 due to complications from diabetes and heart disease. His death marked the end of a life that had profoundly shaped modern technology and society, from the incandescent light bulb to the phonograph and early motion picture innovations. Edison's passing reflected both the triumphs and challenges of an era defined by rapid industrialization, electrification, and the rise of mass consumer culture. Edison's death occurred during the Great Depression, a period of economic uncertainty that contrasted sharply with the optimism and ambition that had characterized his career. His relentless pursuit of invention embodied the values of his era: ingenuity, self-reliance, and the belief that technology could transform society. Yet his passing also highlighted the human limits behind such monumental achievement. Despite a career that generated wealth and fame, Edison, like many of his contemporaries, faced personal and professional conflicts, including legal battles over patent rights and disputes with other innovators such as Nikola Tesla and George Westinghouse. The immediate consequences of his death were felt both publicly and professionally. Across the United States, factories dimmed lights in tribute to the man who had literally illuminated the nation, and newspapers chronicled his extraordinary achievements. His death reinforced his status as a cultural icon and symbol of American innovation. While Edison had already cemented his legend during his lifetime, his passing intensified public fascination with the figure of the inventor as a near-mythical agent of progress, inspiring future generations of engineers, entrepreneurs, and scientists. Edison's enduring influence is immortalized through his inventions, written records, and institutions, such as the Thomas Edison National Historical Park in New Jersey. Art, literature, and film have also contributed to his lasting legacy, portraying him as a symbol of creativity and perseverance. His death reminds humanity of the interplay between mortality and achievement. Though life is finite, innovation and memory allow individuals to transcend temporal boundaries. Through commemorating Edison, society honors the capacity of human ingenuity to shape the world, illustrating how achievement, preserved through documentation and cultural memory, ensures a form of immortality.